Howdy there, YouTube. Back again with kind of a cautionary tale about the silicone gun socks. So, silicone gun socks are great if you're just going to use them for a short period of time or if you're just transporting them to and from, say, a range. But for long-term storage, they're not a good solution, particularly if you live in a humid environment or if it's someplace that it's going to get moisture, like from a swamp cooler or something like that. And I believe that's what happened to this, was a swamp cooler. And you can see it's left striations from the grain of the sock. And it's kind of, I don't know if it melted the clear coat in some kind of chemical reaction. But you can see there it's like missing part of the finish there and it dripped down. It's really bizarre. So this is going to be one of my projects to try to restore this without damaging it too much or having to refinish, because there was a couple other ones that were damaged too that are a little more valuable, and so I'm going to experiment with this guy. This is a Winchester Model 61 pump action. Doesn't have the hammer like the 62 or the 1890, but they're still really good guns. They take short, long rifle. And this particular one has the rear sight blocked, and it has this flip up marbles peep sight. There might be a lineman. Marbles. So it'll be a good little gun when it's done. You can see it's missing some of the finish. Somebody carried it like that, which isn't uncommon for these. You know, kids tend to carry them right there. So anyway, this will be a project. Probably won't be doing too many mods to it, but just kind of cleaning it up, checking it out. Not even sure if it's missing parts or if it's functional inside, other than it does work. I mean, it cocks and everything, and clicks and fires. So it is a 3-digit serial number gun, which, being a Model 61, you know, that doesn't really mean anything, but it is, you know, a low first early model, so I guess it has some value. But after the damage it's taken from just general use, and with the damage here to the stock, which is so unfortunate, I figure it's a good candidate for some TLC. So stay tuned, and I'll be sure to get to this probably sooner than later. And so thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Howdy again there, YouTube. Back again with another installment of this Model 61 slash try to fix the damage that was caused by these silicone gun socks repair video. I made some interesting observations while I was taking this apart. Just thought I'd share. This has got a split kind of lock washer in the stock, and if you use a really long extension, maybe I'll show you that here in a second. Anyway, there's a little spring here that you don't want to lose. I'm not really sure what that does. I guess it pushes on this little guy here. Yeah, there we go. Couldn't quite figure that out when I was taking it apart. Yeah, there we go. So as I said in the initial video, this stock was damaged by one of those silicone gun socks. And I'm not sure if moisture got into it by a swamp cooler or just from the air. We live in a pretty dry environment, so I'm guessing it was a swamp cooler. But now that I'm looking at it, I'm not so sure that this wasn't deposited on there by the gun sock, because there's sections where the wood still looks like it should, but then in other sections, man, it looks bad. And then if I look on this butt plate never had anything on it, but it's got something on it now. You can see it there. So it's a dog hair. But you can see that something was deposited on there. Now, whether or not it dripped down from the thing, or if it was deposited on there by the gun sock, I still haven't determined yet. But there's a really thick spot right there, so I'm not sure. It doesn't appear to have ever been disassembled, so I'm highly doubtful that somebody refinished it without getting that finish all over the rest of the metal parts. So, well, I'm gonna hit it with some real fine copper wool here, and we'll see what that does. See if we can't get some of this off of there. This is the stuff we've all grown to hate, steel wool. But in my local hardware store, they had something different. This bronze wool, and I gotta tell you, I really like it. And it's great because it doesn't scratch it. It doesn't deposit as much of the fines onto the project, so the cleanup's a lot better. But the main thing is it doesn't scratch it. So I'm gonna try some of this on the stock and see how it goes. Now this is the tool that I use for all my shotgun, smelly, 22s, airsoft ARs have a really long bolt like this where you need to get up in there, and it's got your standard 1/4 inch on one end, and then takes your 1/4 inch bits on this end. And what I found, especially like on the SMLEs, you might need to put an impact driver on this end. So it's nice that it's got the little cutout for a impact driver. So that's how I get these off. This I just use a screwdriver, but sometimes you're going to need more oomph. And so you can throw a 1/4 inch ratchet or like a impact drill. And pop, 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 it'll zip those things right out of there. So just a little handy tip. If you don't have one, go get one, because will drive you nuts trying to find the right length screwdriver. So I'll be right back. I'm going to do some sanding. Okie dokie, folkies, we got a result. This is after about 30 minutes of sanding. Well, let me change my battery and fucking focus this motherfucker. Okie dokie, folkies, after about 30 minutes we have a result, and it's kind of good and bad news. The good news is it does appear to have been deposited on top of the stock finish. The stock finish is underneath. Unfortunately, it's really hard to get off of there. Steel wool doesn't seem to really cut it. You can gum it up and kind of roll it off of there, but I think we might need to use some kind of chemical, something that's going to remove the silicone, because that's clearly what it is, because it was a silicone gun stock. So something that removes silicone but won't take the finish off of the clear coat underneath, the finish. It's actually a really pretty piece of wood. I kind of just want to refinish it anyway. I might just do that, but the more important thing, I can't get distracted, is to try to mitigate this silicone deposition. And this place there, ooh, it is something that you can't tell on cameras. That's really sticky. This whole thing is just really tacky. So anyway, I did this side. There's still a little bit, you can see the striation still a little bit, and it's not 100% gone just by using the coarse steel wool. I didn't use fine, it was pointless, it was just going to clog it up. But this side I left pretty much. I went over it a couple times before. I was like, wait, I need a control. So this is what it looked like, and this is what I was able to do just with some coarse steel or that bronze wool. So it's smoothed out, but there's still some there. And I mean, it's really bad up here. I didn't do anything up here, but I think for functionality's sake, that would be good enough. If you just spent maybe, it might take you 2 or 3 hours to get it off of there on just this one piece of stock. Luckily on this particular rifle, that was all that got damaged. The foreend's fine. But I like the way it's really cool. It's got the burl in it, and maybe because it has the low serial number, it's got, a little bit fancier wood than the other ones. Not sure. So I'm going to continue to mess with this. I said I might try some kind of chemical stripper on the other side. This camera just does not like to focus on this for some reason. There we go. So you can still see some like right here, and there's some little bumpies. But like I said, I think the good news is that it's deposited. The finish of the stock underneath is fine. But how do you get that silicone that's kind of cooked on there off? It's like a bubble gum on a sidewalk. You don't want to pull up chunks of the underlying finish trying to get this junk off of there. So I might try a couple different chemicals. I've got some orange stripper cleaner I might try, and I don't know, some alcohol. maybe try some alcohol next. So if this thing would ever focus again, I can cut to the next scene. Urgh! Well, guess what, YouTube? Mystery solved. So I've decided to go online and be like, well, there's probably something, to remove silicone from countertops or, wood backsplashes or something like that. Some handy woman tip. Well, there sure as hell is. Guess what it is? WD-40. WD-40. So guess what happened? This gun was coated in WD-40, more than likely. And guess what that did? It did what it was supposed to do. Well, dang this focus. It dissolved the silicone in the gun sock and then stuck it on the stock. Just like that. Simple as that. WD-40 dissolved the silicone and deposited it on the stock. Because if I remember right, all these were cleaned with WD-40 before they were deposited into the place where they were all put. So anyway, this is what you use on a gun that you're going to store. Something like this. Not this. I don't even have WD-40 because I don't use it. Water displacement isn't in my repertoire. But loosening screws and lubricating things, and there's specialized chemicals for that. Don't use WD-40 on a gun. It gums it up. I've had guns that were stored with WD-40 and you go to fire it and you can hear the firing pin slurping through that old greased up WD-40. WD-40 has its uses, I suppose, but this isn't one of them. So just a reminder, gun socks and WD-40, don't do it. I'm going to have to figure out some way to get all this off. Maybe more WD-40. That might just be it. I might have to go buy some WD-40 to put on here. So anyway, thanks for watching, and for God's sakes, WD-40, no bueno with silicone gun socks. Don't do it, ever. Bye. Howdy again there, YouTube. Another day, another idea. So, if you saw the previous video, I don't know if I'm going to loop these all together or not, but if you saw the other previous video, I got this gun that has a gun sock that was stuck to it, and it turns out that WD-40 dissolves silicone. So it dissolved the silicone in the gun sock, and the gun was standing upright like this. So all of the WD-40 ran down the silicone, and because it was trapped against the stock, it just deposited it on the stock. So today what I'm going to try is returning to the perpetrator, and I'm going to try to use this in a spot to try to remove some without damaging the wood. And I figure that way I can use the WD to dissolve it, kind of wipe it off, and then cut the WD with something else, and then put some regular more long-term storage finish on it. And then I also got this kind of industry caulk remover. Now the thing that I'm worried about is that that's going to remove the clear coat from the finish of the stock. And since I'm planning on refinishing this stock anyway, it's not going to be that big a deal. So what I'll do is I'll do a patch. I'll do a patch of WD on one, and then I'll do a patch of this on the other. And then I'll see the difference. If one works better than the other, they're both going to require extra multiple steps. The WD having to be put on, wiped off, and then removed. And then with the caulk remover, it's kind of a similar situation. So I'm going to put a piece of tape in the middle here, so I got a dividing line, and we'll see how it turns out. Maybe this will be the solution without having to sand and restain and all that other stuff. So hold on a second while I lay this out. Okay, so I spent a little time here rubbing with a regular sock on the stock, and it seems to be working a little bit. I mean, I think I had better luck with the steel wool, to be honest. And it took, I think, 25 years for this to happen. So rubbing it for 10 minutes probably isn't going to do it. So that's as much as I was able to lift off, which isn't very much. So yes, it works, sort of. No, it's not going to be good enough. And now I've got oil rubbed into my stock, like a lot of it, which will be fun to remove, but since I'm going to probably strip this anyway. So on this side, this is kind of the bad, really bad. So that's why I figured maybe this stripper will work better. So I'll try that. I'll cut and we'll see how that goes. Well, we have a wiener. That took it right off. Right down to the original finish. It's kind of hard to tell there, but that's the ticket there. It just wiped it right off. I mean, you can see, there it is. That's the old WD-40/silicone. So there you go. There's your ticket. And if this ever happens to you, get some of this. Take all the wood off. I wouldn't imagine this is going to do anything nice to your bluing, but it took the stickiness right out of there. I mean, it just popped it right off. Boom, gone. So I'm not sure about the whole stock, so maybe that's what I'll do next, is I'll just strip this whole thing and see if it took the original finish off. It doesn't, it's still smooth under here. That's not raw wood. That's the finish of the stock. It's hard to pick up on camera, but I just put a dollop there in the middle and just kind of let it sit and then wiped it off, just like the instructions say. And you can see it's missing those ribs right there in the middle, right where I put it. So that's it. We found it. Hallelujah! So I hope this helped you, because it definitely is going to help me, because this stuff is fairly inexpensive and I got nothing but time. So I'll just one at a time find the damaged ones, go through, strip off that junk, and go from there. Although, like I said, I'll strip this whole thing and I'll put a little bit in a second here. Well, it'll be a second for you, but it'll be a little while for me. And I'll just strip this thing back with this stripper and see how it looks at the end. Alright, well, didn't take but a couple minutes. Got this side pretty well done. You can see there on top, I didn't get to that yet, but you can see, I mean, this side now has gotten really sticky. This is the side I sanded. Use gloves. I should have used gloves, but now that my hands are all gross, doesn't matter now. But yeah, heck yeah. I think that's going to work. I'll continue. Alright, well, looks like it's going to work. Deglossed it quite a bit, but it took all the stickiness away and took those lines out, took that big funny colored spot that there it was pure silicone. A big old glob of it. So yeah, I'm going to just hit it with some of that really fine bronze wool to get some of the finish back, because it did kind of degloss it a little bit. But that's easy enough to take care of, so we'll see how that looks. Okay, so I gave it a buff with some of that fine copper wool, and it turned out pretty good. You know, not too shabby. It's not sticky. I did notice there's a couple areas of discoloration here, and that might be some, because that was where it was really heavy, if you remember. That might just be some residue, some more, you know, silicone. I just didn't get it all the way off. I didn't put enough maybe there. But otherwise, I mean, shoot, not sticky. It's great. It's perfect. Perf. So we're going to roll with that on the other ones. And I don't think I'm going to mess with this thing at all. It looks great. And I'm not sure if, because I could notice if I looked really close, you're never going to see it on here. If I looked really close, it looked like some of the silicone WD-40 mix got down into the grains, in between the grains of the wood. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Maybe it'll give it a little bit more waterproof ability. And when I did this for the whole stock, I just figured I might as well describe the process to you. What you got to do is you got to put this stuff on there, and this is the close-up if it'll ever focus. You put this on there and you keep it wet. Get it all nice and wet, get a real nice even coating of it, a big nice gloopy kind of gel coat of it, and you let it sit for a couple minutes, and then just start rubbing it with a cloth and just keep pushing the wet, and you'll see it'll start to peel the silicone off, and you just keep kind of rubbing it and buffing it, and you'll see a spot, and you'll just spray a little bit more on there and just keep rubbing it, and eventually you'll get it all off. And then what I did is took another sock and got it damp and just kind of wiped it off until I couldn't see any more of the residue. So that was just kind of the process. Other than that, just kind of follow the directions. I didn't let it sit on there for the full 3 minutes because it didn't seem like it needed it. And I was pushing it around, you know, pushing the fluid around. It's kind of a gel, so you kind of just kind of glob it on there and smear it around. But you got to have it wet. It's going to want to dry up on you as it starts to absorb or whatever it does to this. It says it lifts it, whatever that is. So you leave it there for just a couple minutes, maybe a minute or 2 minutes, and you'll see it'll start to like change the surface. And then you just keep smearing it and moving it, and eventually you'll get it all off of there. There is a little bit of discoloration even after the buffing. So it isn't perfect, but I'll tell you what, it is so much better. So with that, I think I'm just going to go ahead and end this series. Even though I think it's probably just going to be 1 or 2 videos, I'm just going to jam it all together. So anyway, with that, I thank you for watching, and hopefully this helped you. And if it did, please feel free to do whatever. Since I don't make money off of this, I guess it doesn't matter what you do. So, thanks for watching. See you next time. Maybe by then I'll have a camera that focuses. Anyway, goodbye. So now that I've said goodbye at least half a dozen times, well, it seems like that, but I didn't want this to be drawn out, and I could get it all in one video. So this is the gun back together. I didn't oil the stock at all. This is exactly how I left it. I just assembled it. I noticed that there is a difference, if you can see here. Look at the nice dark patina on this front end. And I've essentially erased that from the stock by removing that silicone. This camera, I swear I'm going to throw you in the trash. But so there is a downside, and you know, this is probably the more cleaner version. This is probably just grime, I would imagine. I mean, you can kind of see where it's worn through even in some spots. So that might just be grime. So I'll clean this thing up. I did just test fire it. It does fire just fine. This side is it shoots a little bit low and to the right. So I'll mark that down, and I'll put a little card with this so that the next person that messes with it will know that this sight needs adjustment. So with this final goodbye, I'll just leave you with that. I mean, that's a substantial difference. I think it's supposed to look like this. I think this is just dirty. So with that, I'll say a final farewell, and thanks for watching if you've made it this far. And like I said, I'm probably going to throw this camera in the trash, as well as that thing of WD-40. So thanks for watching, and see you next time. Oh hey, look, it focused.